So you're telling me that you sold me to pay off your debts? You sold your own child to someone like John Jungkook? You said, barely keeping your voice from shaking. Your dad was sitting on the couch while your mom standing against the wall. Both looked sorry, but what they did wasn't something they should be proud of. Your mother's lips quivered as she looked at you, her gaze pleading. We didn't have any other choice. The debt was it was too much. He promised to protect you. A hot tear slipped down your cheek, but you didn't bother to wipe it away. You looked at your mother in disbelief. Your own mother did this to you. Protect me? You scoffed in pain. You don't protect someone by selling them like property. Do you even hear what you're saying? Your father stepped forward, trying to steady his voice. You don't understand. He's a powerful man. This will give you a stable life, a future. You stared at him, feeling a mix of disbelief and disgust twisting inside you. A future? You laughed, but it sounded hollow and distant. You didn't even ask me. You never once thought about what I had want. You took my choice away from me, and for what? To save yourselves? Your mother wiped her tears and tried to come near you, but you held up a hand to stop her. We didn't do this to hurt you. He's not what you think. He has connections and he has feelings for you. Feelings? You almost choke on the word, shaking your head. How long have you known about this? How long have you known he wanted me? They fell silent, and that silence told you everything. They knew all along and said nothing. Do you realize that you have destroyed my trust I ever had in you? Your father's face tightened, his jaw clenched. We did this for you. No, you said firmly, standing up and pushing your chair back with a sharp scrape. You did this for yourselves, and now I have nothing left to give you. This is it. This is where I cut all the ties. Please don't say that. We are still your parents. Your mom said, coming near you while you laughed bitterly, feeling a strange, numb emptiness spreading inside you. Parents? Parents are supposed to protect their children, to give them choices, not to sell them off to some dangerous man to save themselves. You are not my parents anymore. You are strangers who sold me. Your father took a step towards you, reaching out as if to close the distance, but you took a step back, shaking your head. I don't want anything to do with you. I'll go with him because I don't have a choice now, thanks to you. But as far as I'm concerned, we are done. You are dead to me. Without saying a word, you picked your bag because you were leaving before that man come to claim you. You would like to die rather than being someone's puppet. As you reached for the door and pulled it open, your heart stopped to see Jungkook standing. His dark eyes locked onto you immediately, calm but intense. You feel panic rising, but you swallow it down, lifting your chin, determined to walk past him without looking back. But as you try to walk past him, he grabbed your hand. You try to free your hand, but his grip only tightened. You looked at him. Let go of my hand. He walked near you, eyes looking deep in yours. You're not going anywhere. His face was cold and firm, but he spoke calmly. And who are you to decide that, huh? He said, looking him straight in his eyes as if challenging him without any fear. The one who paid a price for you. Now you can't run away. You have to come with me. You glared at him. Anger was blazing in your eyes. You scoffed. Running? I would rather run than be trapped with someone who thinks they can own people, who use others when they are desperate. Do you think money can buy anything? Anyone? Jungkook's jaw tightened, but he didn't let go. Money had nothing to do with this. You don't know the whole story. Oh, I think I know enough. You saw a family struggling and decided you could take advantage. What kind of person does that? A person who has loved you long enough to do anything to keep you safe. You don't remember, but we know each other once. For a moment, his words threw you off balance. You could not see any lust or greed in his eyes, but pure love. But then again, you don't know him, and a person who brought you and claimed to love you, you can never believe in him. All I know is that you think people are things, that you can buy anything if you throw enough money at it. But let me tell you, John Jungkook, you may have bought me, but you'll never truly have me. People like you are never satisfied. No amount of power or control will ever make you happy. Jungkook stood there, silent for a moment, watching you. You expected him to snap, to get angry so that you can see his true intentions and motive. But he doesn't. Instead, he stepped closer. His grip on your wrist was still firm but not hurting. Think whatever you want. Hate me if it helps. But you are not walking away from me. Not now. Not ever. Tears replaced your anger as you saw your parents standing quietly. You looked at him again. You're going to regret this decision for life. He came near you. I will do everything to make sure I never have to regret. You glared at him, trying to hide the sudden, uneasy feeling his words sent through you. You are delusional if you think you can control me like this. I'll never be what you want. I don't want to control you, Ryan. I want you to see the truth. Who I am, why I did this, but I can't let you walk away, not when I waited this long. As the maid showed you to your room, you felt overwhelmed by how luxurious everything was. The room was huge and beautifully decorated with elegant furniture, soft curtains, and a large bed covered in silk sheets and pillows. It was all perfect, too perfect, but to you, it didn't feel like freedom. It felt like a cage. The maid turned towards you. This is your room, and if you need anything else, please give me a call. Master John has assigned me in your service. Your hands clenched as you signed her to leave. Your anger was out of control and it turned into hurt that it was so painful. Once the maid left, closing the door behind her, the weight of it all hit you. You couldn't hold back anymore. Anger and frustration bubbled up inside you, and you grabbed a pillow, hurling it across the room. The pillow struck a vase, shattering it with a loud crash, but you didn't stop there. Everything within reach went flying: perfume bottles, sheets, pillows, anything you could get your hands on. You threw. Tears streamed down your face as you felt helpless, trapped in a life you never chose. In the middle of your outburst, you suddenly heard footsteps. Turning around, you saw Jungkook standing at the door, watching you silently. His eyes took in the mess you had made, the broken glass, the scattered pillows, but he didn't look angry or even surprised. Wiping your cheeks, you went near him, grabbing his collar. He was standing calmly. What? What did you get by trapping me here? Did you think I would just accept all of this? You think dressing up a cage makes it any less of a prison? He slowly lowered your hands but didn't let go. I didn't expect you to be happy about it. I just wanted you to be comfortable. You pulled back your hands harshly. Comfortable? You think fancy things will make me forget that I'm a prisoner here? You're not a prisoner. I'm doing this to keep you safe. Safe? Safe from what? From my own life? From my own freedom? You think you can just force me into this, throw some money around and make it all better? You think I'll ever trust you after what you have done? Jungkook's eyes softened, but he didn't take a step back. He wanted to tell you how much he loves you and always have, but he knew you won't listen to him nor believe him. I didn't do this to control you. I did it because I care. You think I wanted this for you? For either of us? No. He laughed again, but this time it was more of a bitter sob. You think I'll fall for your words? You think after everything you have done, I'll just forgive you? You don't know me. You never have. He didn't respond immediately. He stepped closer slowly, but not in an aggressive way. He wasn't trying to intimidate you. He was just there. I don't expect you to forgive me, Ryan. I don't expect you to understand, but I can't stand seeing you in danger. I'm not letting you leave this place. You're not going anywhere. Your chest tightened with anger. You think you can just keep me locked up here? You think this is your decision to make? Jungkook's grip tightened around his own resolve. He wasn't going to back down, not now, not when you were the only thing he had left. You don't get to make the rules here, not anymore. You don't get to control me. You're no better than the people who put me here in the first place. And you'll always be that way, no matter how much you tell yourself you care. I think you should rest for some time, saying that he left while you dropped on your knees crying. Jungkook walked into his room after leaving you alone in yours. The door clicked shut behind him and his eyes moved across the room, focusing on the photos that covered the walls. He stepped over to the desk, where more pictures of you were carefully framed. His fingers brushed against one of the photos. It was from when you were a little girl. Smiling brightly, his voice was quiet as he spoke to himself. I remember this day. You were so happy, you didn't even know I was watching you. He let out a sigh, feeling the weight of his actions. He had done this to protect you, but you didn't see it that way. You didn't understand yet. He ran his fingers through his hair, sitting down on the edge of the bed. You are angry at me, I know, but I'm not going to let anything happen to you, not anymore. He looked back at the picture of you. His voice was steady but filled with emotion as he spoke again, almost as if you were there with him. I've waited so long for this, to protect you, to keep you safe. You may hate me now, but one day you will understand. His eyes lingered on one of the photos of you laughing at school. Jungkook felt his heart tighten. I know you don't remember, but I've always been here, always. He stood up, walking slowly around the room. His hand touched the frames as he moved past them. He looked at the door, knowing you were just behind it. You can't leave. I won't let you. You'll hate me for it, but I'm doing this for you, for your own good. His voice grew softer as he whispered to himself, his eyes lost in the memories. I'll wait for you to see it, for you to understand why I did this. I'll wait as long as it takes. Jungkook is protecting you because of something in your father's past. Before he became successful, your father made deals with dangerous people. One of them is now after you, seeking revenge for things your father did years ago. Your parents found themselves deep in debt and concerned by these enemies. They made a deal they never should have, thinking it would save them from future harm. The deal to offer you to the one person who could protect them, John Jungkook. He is both feared and respected in the underworld, and his reputation for loyalty and control makes him someone not easily crossed. Your parents, desperate and unaware of Jungkook's true feelings for you, saw it as their only way out. Jungkook, however, wasn't doing this for power or control. He was doing it to keep you safe. He knew what was coming long before you did. He was aware of the enemy in your father's past, and when things escalated, he knew the only way to ensure your protection was to take you away from everything. He also knew that your parents, in their desperation, were blind to the danger they were putting you in. By taking you under his care, he believed he could shield you from the dark forces coming to you. What you don't know yet is that Jungkook has loved you for years, even when you didn't know him. He watched over you, protecting you from the shadows. As you grew older, his feelings only deepened, and he knew he had to step in to keep you safe. Even though you may hate him now, Jungkook is doing this because he believes it's the only way to protect you from the people who want to hurt you because of your father's past. He's not your enemy, but your protector. The next day, you were sitting by the window looking out at the big yard of Jungkook's mansion. It felt like a cage, a beautiful one, but still a cage. You hadn't eaten in 2 days. The anger and frustration inside you were worse than hunger. You kept thinking about escaping, but every time you remembered Jungkook's warning, you felt stuck. The door opened and a soft voice broke your thoughts. Miss, I brought your lunch, the maid said gently, holding a tray of food in her hands. You didn't turn around. I'm not hungry. You replied coldly, your voice void of emotion. The maid hesitated for a moment, then walked closer, setting the tray down in front of you. Miss, please, I know you're upset, but you haven't eaten anything in 2 days. Master Jungkook is worried about you. You felt a twinge of bitterness at the mention of his name. I don't care what he thinks. I don't need his concern. I don't need anyone's pity. You said, turning your face towards her. Your eyes were red due to anger. The maid's face softened with sympathy and she sat down next to you. I know it's hard, but Master Jungkook, he's not just doing this for himself. He cares about you even if it doesn't seem like that. You crossed your arms tightly, glaring at the food. He's just controlling me, making me his prisoner. I won't eat anything he offers. The maid looked down at the food, her expression worried. I understand, but Master Jungkook is only trying to protect you. He hasn't been the same since you came here. He's been different. He's been asking about you every hour. You clenched your jaw, fighting back the confusion and frustration bubbling inside. Why should I believe anything he says? He made a deal with my parents. He's just using me. The maid gave a soft sigh. Her voice sounds quiet but understanding. I know you're angry. I can't change that. But I've seen how he looks at you. He doesn't want to control you. He just wants to make sure you're safe. You shook your head, refusing to believe her. I don't need anyone's help. She gave a small smile, though it was tinged with sadness. Miss, sometimes we don't see the people who care about us until it's too late. You looked at her as you felt something shift inside you. She gave you a small smile before getting up and left. You looked at the food, your stomach growled. You were scanning the place earlier, but the security was too tight that the thought of escaping seems impossible. Keeping your anger aside, you ate the food because you knew you will be needing some energy later on. Jungkook had just returned from work. His mind was still consumed with thoughts of you. He was surprised to find the maid waiting for him in the hallway. Miss Kim, is everything alright? How is Vian? He asked concerningly while she smiled and nodded. Miss Vian is alright, master, and today she even ate the food. A small smile tugged at his lips, and for a moment a weight lifted from his shoulders. He had been worried, but now knowing that you had finally eaten, his heart lightened. He had always known that eventually you would come around. That's good, thank you. The maid nodded, her face still showing concern. But sir, she hasn't said a word to anyone. She seems distant. Jungkook's smile faded slightly. He had expected this. You weren't going to trust him overnight, but he could see the small progress. You would understand eventually. He would make you see that he wasn't the enemy. I'll check on her. Jungkook said more to himself than to the maid. He walked down the hallway, his steps echoing in the quiet mansion. When he reached your room, he stood outside for a moment, unsure if he should knock. Finally, he raised his hand and knocked softly on the door. Ryan, he called. His voice was low, but there was no answer. He knocked again, this time a little harder, and waited. Silence. Something didn't feel right. His instincts were on high alert. With each passing second, his worry grew. His thoughts raced. He knocked again, this time harder, but still no reply came. A strange feeling settled in his chest, and he could no longer wait. His hand gripped the doorknob and he pushed the door open. The room was empty. Jungkook froze, his heart dropped into his stomach. His gaze swept the room, but there was no sign of you. Panic wrapped up his spine, and his eyes searched for any clue as to where you might have gone. Then his eyes landed on the back window. A bedsheet was hanging out of it, fluttering in the breeze. You were gone. Jungkook's breath caught in his throat. He rushed to the window, throwing it open, but you were nowhere to be seen. His mind spun, trying to piece together how this had happened. He had been so close, so sure you were starting to trust him, but now he had lost you again. What did you do, Ryan? He quickly took out his phone to inform his team to start searching for you because he knew you could be in danger. I need you to start searching for her now. Don't waste any time, she's not far. Find her before anything happens. Jungkook's heart raced, full of fear and underline. He knew you well enough to understand that you wouldn't have gone too far in your panic. But that didn't make the weight of his chest any easier. His enemies could be watching, and if they found you, they wouldn't hesitate. He gritted his teeth, his heart pounding harder as he ran outside. His steps were shaky, but he knew what he had to do. He had to find you no matter what. As he stepped out into the cool night air, his pulse quickened. Every second was crucial. His eyes scanned the surroundings, but all he could think about was the fear that you might already be out of reach.